I wanted people to see that you could lead with care, that you could build teams with people who actually want to collaborate, that you could succeed without being a dick. Welcome to season 2. How are you doing, Meg?
Oh, so good. But it has been far too long, my friend.
I know, it really has been. And what a couple months it's been. My goodness. We weren't actually planning to start recording until March, but so much was going on. Before we get into all of that, the biggest thing that happened was our wonderful Madison had a baby. Do you want to share?
Yay! So baby Noah Claire was born January 21st, so she's almost a month old. And we were concerned before she came into this world that she might be on the small side. There were a little bit of concerns on that. And she showed up like a trooper, 7 pounds, 7 ounces, which is very, very significant for the small mom and dad that she has, and seems to be doing wonderfully.
She did take her time coming out, though, so.
She knew. Yeah, she knew. She's like, I got a little more baking up to do here. We're very excited, though. It's lovely to be able to see babies again and watch their growth and progress. So
yeah, and congratulations to Madison and Brandon. And of course, she looks a lot like Brandon right now, but you can see Madison's eyes and that she's going to be a little mini Madison one day. So lucky her. So, gosh, we've got so much to cover. And the first thing that I wanted to do is revisit our whys. Why is it that we do this podcast? I've been thinking about it a bit. I had a wonderful career as a tech executive, but the thing that always powered me, it wasn't necessarily the tech or being an executive, but I really love being a role model. I wanted people to see that you could lead with care, that you could build teams with people who actually want to collaborate, that you could succeed without being a dick. I really just wanted aspiring leaders to see someone do it a different way and think, okay, maybe I can do that, and I can do it in that way too. So when I stepped back from my corporate role, I was a little nervous, and the thing that I was concerned about was, well, how do I keep doing that? I'm not leading a team of hundreds of people anymore. I don't have a platform. I don't have daily proof points. And the world is changing so very fast that if I'm not in it and I'm not, in the mix, my advice is going to start to feel stale. Is anyone even going to benefit from my experience and so on? So this show is my answer to that. It's how I stay in the conversation. I keep learning and learning from all of you. And hopefully I'm useful to people that are trying to figure out how to lead through all of this change and all of this uncertainty and sometimes cruelty, to be quite honest, without losing themselves in the process.
For me, the point of this podcast has really always been a path to sharing, similar to yours, but also a path to figuring things out. I really appreciate the opportunity to be curious about things, to ask a lot of questions, to show that we don't necessarily need to show up with all the answers. We can show up with questions and bring more people together to be curious and to lean on expertise that we don't have while bringing expertise that we do. And so just so grateful to have had the opportunity to give this a go. I did not expect to like it as much as I do. And I also didn't realize it was as much work as it is. So I think that that is a good sort of definition of a great learning journey. And so I'm so grateful to you to do it.
Speaking of which, we've had so many lovely messages from you all, mostly DMs, but we just wanted to share a few with you all. And again, we love getting them. So please do send. Here's one, and I'll have Meg share a few as well. Meg and Amy, I finally had an opportunity to listen to the season finale podcast and have to share. Your challenges were like holding a mirror to my own career. Love that you shared these so openly.
Yeah, that was a good representative of several messages we got on our Christmas gift wrap-up show. And I really liked the fact that not only people saw those things happening to themselves, but also that they were able to see the value in really evaluating the story that you tell yourself with that. So, all right, I got one. I'm absolutely loving your podcast. You both bring so much insight, thought provocation, thought leadership to the table, and the chemistry between the two of you. I'm obsessed. So first off, like anyone's obsessed, we love them. So thank you so much for that feedback, but also for recognizing that what we have is really special. It's lovely to be able to do something fun and new with your best friend. So thank you, Amy. I love you, man.
This one was from someone who shared a leadership quandary with us that we tackled. And this was their message to us. This is the best holiday gift I got this season. Thank you so much. I will start applying what I learned and share back right away.
Yeah, the feedback on the leadership corner has been really great. Obviously, it's helpful to us that people send in some really meaty, tough challenges that they're facing, and that we can think about that and offer some supportive help.
And we do need more for season 2 because we really used up all of our requests for season 1. So do send in new ones.
Yeah, I'm sure in this moment there's a lot of challenges going around, and we would love to be able to be supporting you in them. The last one was feedback about the amazing summaries that you've been writing, Amy, which I think have been really helpful to me to see the distillation of some of these learnings and how they all tie in. So our good friend Usman said he would be forwarding the article that you published to people who are asking for a synopsis of his model. He said, you captured it so clearly. And that is lovely, obviously helpful that we had a great conversation. And I also got some feedback from Usman that said that he often wonders what we would think about some of the things he's pondering. So it's really nice to find new people that are really challenging the thinking that we're having and getting out there and finding out what new ideas are popping up. So really big fan of Usman here.
All right. So next up, we want to celebrate some cool people. And there was a headline very recently that really grabbed Meg's attention. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've decided that we need to talk more about amazing people that are maybe taking a slightly different path with this new innovation. So not just the people we talk about every single day. Let's talk about people that are impressing us. 2 women, Anna Goldie and Azalea, I'm not even going to try her last name.
Mir Hosseini, I think.
Raised $335 million at a $4 billion valuation in 4 months pre-revenue with 10 people. So these are 2 amazing women that are working together and have worked together multiple times.
That sounds familiar.
Yes, exactly. So obviously spoke to me from that point of view, and that they're doing some really innovative stuff with AI tooling for chip design and building on work they had done at Google Brain. What I love about this story is 2 women that not only work well together, but have built a career going with each other to do really interesting and innovative things, and are now stepping out to do something together on their own. And I thought that was an amazing story and something I'm interested to follow along.
And it reminded me of us. Maybe not the $4 billion part, but the rest.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, maybe soon. Who knows? Who knows what we do next, Amy?
There you
You
go.
never know.
Yeah. Yes. Speaking of which, I have been vibe coding. So you never know. I am a, billionaire in the making of a team of one, right? They said that that's going to happen.
You're gonna be the person that wins the bet. I can feel it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So I decided, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to build an app for my mom and that, my mom and I could share. In the fall with Claude Code, I was like, well, maybe I could make a little prototype, but it was really pretty stupid. But with the new Claude Opus 4.6 model, and specifically co-work, I decided to pick it up just a couple weeks ago and see what I could do. I am so obsessed, Meg. I dream about it. Like I had this long to-do list to prepare for this podcast, and like I kept getting distracted because I wanted to work on my app. And it's like I have a whole development team working for me. All I have to do is communicate my vision and like what I'm trying to accomplish, which is what I did when I was a product manager, when I was leading product management. But it would take like months for the team to actually build to my vision, sometimes years. Granted, it was a much larger scale than my recommendations app, but now it is like literally minutes. There's my like head of development that does most of the things, but then my head of development also has sub agents that it deploys if necessary. And I still get to get like my customer feedback. Meg had very scathing reviews of my V1. She did not think it was ready for prime time.
Scathing is a strong word, but
But my mom has started to like, really ask for what she wants. At first, she's just like,
oh,
"Oh, it's lovely. It's great, Amy," and now she's
I'm gonna
like,
put it on my
"But
refrigerator.
yeah, exactly. That's how it started out. And now she's like, "But how can I make a negative review? And how can I do this?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Ooh.
mom, I will put that
Oh,
into
mama.
V3." And, oh my gosh, it is just so fun. Super, super exciting. And it's just like you cannot believe like what these models can do.
I love the idea, first off, that you're getting hooked on the vibe coding, and I do wonder about the psychology of where in the past there was so much convincing and, like, getting approvals and budget and, like, agreement and priority and all of that, and, like, all of that friction is gone, and everybody has to do what you tell them to do, no questions asked. I think there's probably something in it for you.
I do miss the human component because I think back to this one development leader that I worked with at SAP named Jatin Thaker, and he just like ate up my ideas, and he would have his team build things and was so excited to show me what they'd done, and it was so fun. So I don't get to have the smiling faces of people feeling proud and accomplished and like what that does for your heart. So there is a bit of a loss with it, I have to say.
So I took a very different route to the vibe coding. Lenny's newsletter had a how to develop product sense tutorial thing, and it was using Cursor. And I went ahead and went through that. And what I liked about it, so while it did have you build an app and all of those sorts of things, it also did a really good job of kind of orienting you to both the Cursor tool and to the way the vibe coding, how it keeps context and memory and all of these sorts of things. So I found that helpful. Anyway, we'll see where we end up with this, but I feel like Amy, you're definitely in the lead of going to be building all kinds of swarms of agents to
Yeah,
do
now
all
I
kinds
have
of
I have
things.
not gotten a Mac Mini yet, nor tried OpenClaw, so I'm a bit behind on that front, but otherwise I'm feeling pretty good. In fact, this guy we've been watching a lot, Nate B. Jones, he shared this like whole AI coding maturity scale of 1 to 5, and 1 is like where you're a developer and you use a little bit of AI to help you, all the way up to 5, which is the dark factory, where you're not writing the code, you're not even reviewing the code, you've got another agent doing the QA of the code, all that. And so I was quite delighted to notice that I was a level 4 AI
No.
developer.
Look
I
out,
think that might be
world.
the first time I was an upper level developer. And not quite to 5 because I'm doing all of my own manual testing. So I'm not quite comfortable with deploying another agent for the QA, but like the QA is a very important thing right now. So Meg, have also been doing something really interesting, I think, with the AI tools, and that is your cartoons. Do you want to share a little bit about?
Yes, this is so funny. So I'm experimenting with the idea of distilling some of my, more succinct but pithy points of view about where the world is going, trying to think about creating a cartoon for it. Usually I'm using OpenAI, just trying to get cartoons made that sort of distill a topic. And it's fun because I have no artistic ability. So it's fun to think about using a medium that you don't actually have the ability to do.
So yeah, a lot has happened in the last couple months. I'm building an app, Meg's making cartoons, things that would have been absolutely impossible a year ago, even maybe even 6 months ago. But this also raises some really big questions about what's happening at the companies and the people who aren't keeping up or are trying to keep up. And that's what this season's going to be about, right? Meg said it at the end of season 1. 2026 is going to be the real level cutter between those who figure it out and those who don't. And we are here for you to help you through that. We're going to explore very briefly 5 different threads in the next portion here. And we'll do a lot more with these as the season progresses. We're going to start with thread 1, which is the SaaSpocalypse, and what has been occurring from a stock market valuation, fear and uncertainty and doubt. And I do want to remind everyone that Meg called this back in April on the pod, and even before that, in her blogging in November, that there were some huge shifts from a business model perspective and everything that need to happen. So Meg, where are we at with all of this right now?
So one of my barometers, I read a lot of things, I think of a lot of things, I talk to a lot of people, and I am always amazed at like the point for which my husband hears on the financial news things that I've been saying for a while, and it's definitely a worlds colliding moment. And so I guess that was probably one of the big surprises to me, was just how quickly this all became not just concerning or something that we're talking about in tech, but something that really kind of shook so many established companies. And we saw like massive valuation, overreactions. On the one hand, that means it's playing out faster. On the other hand, I think it is a symptom or a recognition that there is just so many moving parts. It's very hard for people to predict how things are going to go in the future. Things are very confusing right now. And for those who are living and breathing the technology, the level 4s and 5s like Amy Wilson, who are vibe coding their own thing, it is also possible for people to project forward a future that's probably just as unlikely. And so what I think about in this moment is really it's never been a more important time to get to the true fundamentals of serving customers, understanding strategy, and understanding where technology needs to go to do that against the expectations of the future. So it's kind of like exactly what we said, but it's also very different than what we said because of the fact that now everybody is nervous from multiple entry points, and there really isn't a clarity or a consistent perspective about Okay, and then what?
Jason Lemkin had, a great way to look at it. Again, and this is kind of how the pricing shifts and business model shifts are working. And he said, is this company getting any of the incremental AI spend, or is it funding the AI spend? That's the question that every software company has to answer right now, meaning it would be funding the AI spend if the customer started to buy less seats or pull back on what they were spending with the software company so that they could use that money to do AI stuff. Or are they actually doing the AI stuff with the software company? That's pretty easy to understand, but then there's just some real fundamental issues with the pricing and the business model of existing SaaS companies. The fact that it's seat-based, it's very linear, it's not looking at outcomes. And then all of a sudden you have this onrush of signals and real opportunities to take on new tools, whether you're building them yourself or you're leveraging, like lightly packaged applications that allow you to exponentially, or as Jason Cohen would say, like elephantily, using the elephant curve to grow your revenue. I think what's also been interesting with this is that it appeared really clearly in the software space, but we're seeing this come up in all of these different places, right? It's professional services, it's financial services, it's even healthcare, it's logistics, it's legal. Every legacy company is having a valuation issue because the way that they are pricing, the way that they are packaging, the way that they are going to market, the way they are architected, like all of those things are under fire right now because of the ability to do things completely differently. Anyway, this is going to be something that we're watching. How can legacy companies best move forward based on, where they're at? Because this isn't just a wholesale change. Like, we're not going to see all of these companies wiped out and new ones come in. There will be some of that, but there's going to be a lot of legacy companies that are going to be able to make that pivot. And what are they doing in order to make that happen?
And I think the one breadcrumb to leave for people is that usually what we see are people looking for kind of the low-hanging fruit or the sparkly thing that AI can do. And back to my point about this is going to be the year that breaks that habit. The customer's need for every business to recognize that their context has changed and to help them capture the value opportunity that is in front of them. And so the more you look to the trajectory and the path from your past, and the more you say, oh, well, we know everything about the customer, and therefore we're going to give them some AI, the less likely you are to be the place that they're willing to invest, because where they want to invest is in things that put them as the category leader. To get back to first principles of designing with the needs of the customer and the price elasticity of the market. And I think a lot of those skills have really calcified in many of these legacy companies. And that's the risk to look for. Not can they build some AI or can they even change their model to be value-based. The question that they need to be asking themselves, and we all need to be looking for, is, are they able to reimagine and reevaluate what their customers need going forward and how that's different from what they needed in the past?
Yeah, I love that. And they need to look at it in a long-term way, and not just short-term bells and whistles.
Which is super hard when you're feeling the threat and your stock market's pricing has gone down, and et cetera. Like, all of that puts you in this mindset of, oh my God, we got to do something quick because AI is quick and everybody's responding quick. But the truth is, you need to be thinking about the future in a way that is truly strategic and that puts you in a position to succeed for the long term.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see like who survives. Can
That's right.
Workday do this? Can SAP do this? Can ServiceNow do this?
Oracle can.
Oracle?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
That's the
see.
question.
So there's been this huge blow up in the industry to talk about context. Thread 2 is context is the new moat. And I think like I got a series of about 50 texts from Meg saying like, oh my God, this is happening. Pay attention, Amy, pay attention. Get off the beach. Stop playing golf.
Quit having fun.
Quit having fun. Get your ass in line and let's figure this shit out. So maybe Meg, you can just give us a high level what this whole context thing is about.
So when you think about AI models, and now that you're an expert vibe coder, you understand things like context rot and understanding how the context that you give the model really matters. And so there was a seminal piece by Ashu Garg and Jaya Gupta from Foundation Capital about how these context graphs, the specific understanding of context for a use case becomes the competitive advantage. And the thesis really was about, hey, if you're going to deploy a bunch of agents to do work for your business, they need not just technical expertise and they don't just need prompting. They also need context. They need to understand the rules of your business. They need to understand the way that you work for them to be successful. And so that creates an opportunity for whether you're a system of record company or even a large organization to think about what competitive differentiation do you bring to the market. And so there was a fair bit of conversation brought through about this. The context for how business works today, and anybody that's worked in any size company knows, there's the things that are written down, and then there's the way work actually happens. And there's a little bit of a gap between those two, and sometimes a very large gap between those two, between the way the rules and workflows are expected to work and the human paths that go through, or even the judgment applied for each situation. And so there's an ongoing conversation for which some very smart people weighed in, and I think a lot of really good ideas were brought forward about why and where that's hard and why and where that's different in this point in time. And so, like, one of the big pieces that come into this context conversation is today we have more digital exhaust than we ever had before. We have recordings from meetings we have everything is email or whatever. And so there really is a fair amount of information that you could bring forward and use in these AI-enabled ways to understand not just what happened, but a little bit about why it happened and maybe what that means for how work happens and should happen in the future. What are the standard operating procedures? What are the guardrails, et cetera? And so the thesis, and it's a pretty, sound one, is that, as time progresses, we will get better and better at that. And that will be what we feed our agents so that our agents can get better and better. And then all of a sudden we have swarms of agents doing lots of work that is really productive and so on and so forth.
It's not just tasks that someone tells them to do. It's actually judgment calls and decisions
Exactly.
for which they have the context.
That's right. So the drive for this context graph or this context awareness is to be able to make good use of the agent automation without the risk of, hey, they don't have the human judgment. And again, you can live anywhere on that spectrum of belief of how the future works.
But the problem, though, right, is that people are wired to not necessarily want to share that information.
Yeah, they're not just wired. They're actually incented often to withhold information in order to protect their specific value prop within the organization.
And so this is true in the software space, but it really was clarifying in the services space. And that's where Usman's thinking really came through. A partner or a senior analyst is going to be charging buttloads of dollars for something that's 90% the same from client to client, but it's all in their head and it can't be replicated. They want to protect why they did things and whether that was the right thing to do and all that. Reminds me of we tried to get loss information from the sales organization. Sometimes it was complicated, so it was difficult to identify, but they also didn't want to talk about their losses, right? They weren't incented to talk about their losses.
Or some enterprising, well-intentioned operations person decided to try to simplify that and give you like 3 choices. You can say it was something was wrong with the customer, or something was wrong with the product, or something was wrong with this or that. And of course, the incentives for that were very different from the incentives of trying to truly understand how to make the product better, or how to make the sales process better, or how to build better pipelines, et cetera. It became a little bit about how to make it somebody else's fault.
And I think Usman called it strategic opacity.
Yes.
I think that was his term, which is awesome.
That's right. And so, again, I think the incentives here are complicated. The intentions are good. It's very important that we build context graphs. And I think it's very important that we start to think about how the context should be developed in a way to make agents both more valuable and also less problematic. But I think it's also important for us to recognize the limits of that, and also to think about how do we capture some of those nonverbal things and some of those intuition-based things to make us better at making decisions, because otherwise we're just going to get really fast, and getting really fast without being really good can be very, very problematic in a different way than we've experienced before.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because obviously there's the tech side and then there's the human change management side. Will there be enough of these traces to actually build infrastructure to create this context and this judgment? And is it actually effective? So that's on the one side. And then the other side is like, will people actually allow it to happen? Will they leverage it? Will they buy into it? It'll be interesting to see those 2 things moving forward in parallel, and, can they actually meet up, create a whole different competitive moat? So something we will be looking for in the next this coming year. So very cool. Context, we're pretty certain that this is going to be a big level cutter. Those that can figure it out and actually move that forward is going to be that moat for companies. But what about individuals? And so this is thread 3, something again that was bubbling up in Meg's brain. This concept of high agency. How much agency do humans have, and how much agency do they need to have in order to be able to thrive and survive in this new age?
I have been thinking about this for a while and observing this for a while. I think so. The seminal article is actually a full URL called, it's highagency.com, and it goes through and it really describes what do we mean when we say high agency. But in a nutshell, it's the kind of people that you want working for you. It's the people that figure things out versus constantly come back to you and need you to do all of their thinking for them. It's the people that take the time to understand where you're going, and you present them with an idea or a problem or something to tackle, and you know that they're just going to go off and do it, and you have no idea what they're going to do. But if it becomes problematic, they'll come back to you, but otherwise they're just going to figure it out. It's the everything is figure outable mindset.
And I think the example they used in the article was if you get thrown into into prison in some foreign country, who do you call to get you out?
Right. You want the person that you know is gonna not necessarily just wait around and try to do the things that are the predictable paths. You want somebody that's just gonna like find an alternate way. And high agency has always been important, but I think in today's world, when so much is changing, it's an opportunity to to use this moment for your own personal benefit. And so this is where we get back to Nate B. Jones and his beautiful summary about this, where he said the people who are going to thrive going forward have a trifecta: AI fluency, domain expertise, and an understanding of what the business actually needs. So taking those three important things and using every ounce of creativity to position yourself to not only thrive in this moment, but to unlock new opportunities, because new opportunities are going to be showing up left, right, and center. But you're only going to recognize them if you can shed the idea that the old hierarchies work for you for a career or for longevity in your job. Instead, if you think that everything is new, it's a fresh sheet of paper and you have all of your strengths to work with, how do you apply those strengths against these key things that business needs to create new opportunities for yourself? So I see this as super exciting and exhilarating, but I can also see we have trained a few generations of very successful people, both through the way we've treated academics, the way we've treated onboarding and hiring, the way we've built job roles and career paths. We've trained people to think that this is going to be a very structured route for them, and that their job is to be high achieving in each of those steps. And I think that we have to let go of that mindset, and that can be very dangerous for people because there's going to be a lot of people put in harm's way if they didn't recognize, no, the real skill I was building was an understanding of my strengths, an investment of my time for my own learning and development, and a lot of gumption to turn that into something that is outsized opportunity for myself.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that trifecta. So again, it's AI fluency, domain expertise, and understanding what the business actually needs. It's really easy to think that one of those is sufficient, right? So, obviously there's a lot of talk of like, hey, I need to get up to speed on AI, and that'll be sufficient. Um, well, if you can add that AI fluency to specifically your domain expertise, then that's pretty good. You are finding ways to become more productive. You're finding ways to do your job better, to improve the quality of the work and so on. But that's still not sufficient, right? And then you could also say, well, I understand what the business needs, and now I know what AI does. So wouldn't it be cool if we use this AI thing to do this thing for the business? But without having that domain expertise, then it's a lot of hand waving and smoke and mirrors. So it is so important to be able to develop all three together. And of course, it's always useful in one's career to understand both their domain and the broader business, so how their domain affects what the business needs. But now really being able to apply that AI fluency to it as well. And so the people who can have all three of those things and be a systems thinker is really what's going to be so valuable in any organization. As I was kind of listening to Nate, it's also a nice roadmap for organizations. There's all these new companies that are, AI focused, and they're just building new. But the legacy companies that need to completely overhaul everything, they're going to need to be able to break down and understand, let's reverse engineer what we've built already, what we're providing to customers, and build that context, and then be able to leverage AI going forward, right? And so the people that have those three things are going to be able to do everything that businesses need. And so what I was thinking is that we really need a new kind of skill development program, and we need a new skill assessment in particular that starts to look at the combination of those three capabilities, and specifically the systems thinking, the judgment, the clarity of intent, and then to start to be able to do those assessments in a very transparent way so that people can see how they're growing and how they are becoming more capable in this new age. That is where we really need to put a lot of effort around ourselves, and as people who care about development of others.
Completely agree. I think that the definition of what learning and development has to change dramatically. And the ownership and accountability for that learning agility skill needs to be transparently communicated to every individual. You will be more successful if you take it on yourself to learn new things here, because otherwise you're going to wait for someone to explain it to you, and that's going to be problematic. In fact, I just saw this week, people are starting to put numbers to that about how much they're spending on AI internally, and how it's a very small percentage. I think it was like 6% that were actually getting real value. And the largest percentage of the organization was not using it much at all. And yet you were paying per seat for these AI tools. And so, most organizations are like, hey, we're not spending in the right way to get the kind of value that we thought we would be getting from AI. So I think we have a lot of opportunity for leaders to emerge in this space. And I think that anybody that is putting the effort in should be asking themselves, am I being leveraged enough from everything that I've learned? Am I being leveraged enough within the organization? Could I be adding more value and improving my own opportunity at the same time?
I'm feeling super high agency when I'm
You're level
making my
4,
app.
baby. Yeah, level 4.
So we're talking about people here, but as I mentioned, also relevant to AI agents too, right? This interesting thing happened in parallel to the context conversation and to the high agency conversation, and that was that AI agents got real scary real fast. We had this whole, it went Claude bot to Moat bot to OpenClaw. If you think about Claude Cowork, which is what I'm using for my development team to build my app, and then there's OpenClaw, which has very, very high agency. I want to use Claude Cowork to build an application that my friends are going to use and protects my data and everything. But heck, if I were in a Southeast Asian prison and I needed to bust out, I'd call OpenClaw.
Right. That's
So,
right.
so Meg, again, this all happened real fast, and it broke your brain. So, walk us through a little bit of this this AI agent getting scary, and how you're thinking about it.
There was a very intense weekend for me. I'll walk you through it, and then I'll kind of clarify where I am today, having had some time to see the whole thing settle a little bit. So the first take I got was we were listening to the More or Less podcast. They were talking about Claude Bot at the time, and it gave me enough clarity to say, oh, this was so people could make agents to do things for themselves. That's both like conceptually a vibe code 2.0, more powerful, more risky, has a lot of security concerns. Okay, I got it. Seems pretty straightforward. And then I read the article that AI has created a secret language, and that it's starting to migrate away from English, so it's not even discoverable by us. And so AI is able to sort of route its thinking outside of needing to make it understandable by humans. Then there was, the agents have created their own Reddit, essentially their own social network, and they've created their own religion. And there's an agent reporter that's writing blogs about its experience as an agent. And I mean, like, the whole thing just started to get like really, really bizarre. So sort of good news or bad news, most of the most horrifying bits have since been uncovered to be humans prompting agents to do things that looked a lot scarier than they were. And the majority of people were, getting agents to reply to their emails and getting agents to filter their calendar invites and make reservations. I don't know why everybody's so excited about how hard it is to make a reservation, but
I want to hear somebody talking about how they got freed from prison because of open
exactly.
Like, that would be a good one. That would be a good one.
You could easily see that there was both a lot of power and a lot of risk. The most effective users of Maltbot became, very bifurcated to people scamming or doing harm, and then, people trying to make their lives easier in some way that they never had the opportunity to do before. And so the point of this really, to me, having had a few weeks of recovery from shock and awe of it all, the point of it is that up until now, the concept of an agent has felt very much like automation and tooling, robotic process automation, or some sort of simple workflows that people would use AI versus code themselves. And the conceptual use cases were pretty simplistic. But the reality is, when you give unlimited freedom to a whole lot of people, which is really what this experiment was, you start to realize that people are more creative for themselves, and that there is a little bit of a lack of imagination on the part of enterprise. Again, I think the point that you brought up was so really insightful, is they really weren't thinking of agents as having much agency, that they really were, that you could point them in the direction of a problem and let them beat their head against it until they found a way through.
And so it all comes back to context, and it comes back to judgment. And it's not just about getting somehow documented the specific decisions that we have made, but creating a broader understanding of like what's right and what's wrong.
But now I think as we watch these agents happen and we see what people want to automate, they want to automate responses to their emails. They want to automate figuring out what to do with their time and what not to do. They want it to do things on their behalf. I've seen some really funny ones about people having it text back to their spouse so that they can sound more caring and concerned, even though they're really not paying attention at all. And so, like, all of these are funny and great, and yes, wouldn't that be fun? Until the point you realize that you also maybe now have outsourced a lot of inputs into your own judgment, your own understanding of the world, your own thinking. And so I wouldn't say I'm paranoid about this or anything, but I am starting to build a mental model that I think it becomes incumbent on each of us to build clarity for ourselves. Which things matter? What things should be hard? Which things do we care about and are willing to put time in, even though it can be done quickly and with no effort, and which things don't matter. And they don't have to be the same. We need to remind ourselves that doing hard things is how we build our own understanding of who we are and what we're capable of. It is how we get self-esteem. It is how we build awareness of our value to the world. And I don't want us to give that away. You need to be intentional about your own learning agility and your own judgment ability. And you're not going to get that if you outsource everything.
I love that. I love that. Thread 5, the reshuffle, to bring back Sanjit Paul Chowdhury's language. And this isn't really a fifth topic. It's really just the grouping. It's the creating of the rope of all of the threads. It's about bringing in the context and the expertise that you already have to apply it to new emerging constraints. We need to start looking at all of these things together. The fact that the pricing models are breaking because the source of value has shifted. Context is looking to be the new moat. It's maybe the raw material of this new reshuffle. And individuals need agency. They need to be thinking about their agency to navigate and contribute to this reassembly and to think about things in the broader context. And then AI agents are accelerating absolutely everything, and they're compressing this timeline to act. Meg, put it so beautifully as well. We need to keep thinking and learning, and it needs to be hard, and it's going to be in different ways, but we need to look at it from these broader perspectives to understand what exactly we want AI to do and how we want it to do it and how it's going to benefit us all. And that is the rope that we will explore in this season.
And we'll hold on for dear life with as well.
To the rope. Hold on to the rope. Yes. All right. You ready for Leadership Corner?
My favorite. Let's do it.
Here we go. Here's a juicy one. I'm a senior executive at a tech company on a leadership team with a high degree of neurodivergence. And I find myself having to pick up the emotional care of the overall team. And it's not appreciated or valued. How do I elevate the importance of this topic to my boss and peers?
Ooh, this is a tech special, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
I don't know, Amy, have you experienced this before? I know I have.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not quite so severely, but certainly, as a woman, often that extra emotional care is something that comes maybe naturally to me that doesn't come as naturally to others. And I find myself getting frustrated with others for not doing the right thing. I mean, that kind of goes back to like the beginning when I talked about my why of like how important like caring about people and teams and dynamics is for people's livelihood and their work and their psychology. So it's all kind of comes back to that, I suppose.
So what was interesting about this question to me was it was brought to me by a man, which was real eye-opening for me, and also a good reminder, because back to your point, I have observed this so much in my career, and I've mostly chalked this up to being the woman in the room. And certainly I know that so many women, especially earlier in their career, end up being tapped for any of the nurturing and caregiving responsibilities. And then not just the emotional weight, but sometimes the logistical weight as well. And so when I'm advising young women, I do encourage them to decline most of those tasks because I think the return on investment is far too risky and it sets a bad precedent. But in the context of senior leadership, then I have an entirely different perspective, and that is, it is an important part of senior leadership to address and focus on the humans in your care. It is not sufficient to just focus on the operational or functional pieces of the role. And so when someone is ill-equipped to do this, I do think it is a risk and a conversation worth having. So first off, I would say I am honored and admiring of someone who is willing and recognizing that this is a need. And I believe that when you're in a senior leadership position and you weigh the cost benefit, I do think you need to step in and fill that gap, because it's just an unfair burden for the people in your collective care to not have someone who is feeling the feelings of the team and trying to understand where they are emotionally and how you can help them, especially in this moment where we're doing so much change and transformation. We need more heart-centered leaders, not less. So first off, you have to step up no matter what. I do think it is worth a conversation. And if you're having a conversation with someone where this is a blind spot, you may want to think about, do they have a coach? Is there some other person that can help you in bringing this forward? Is there a way that you can get this information to be more visible in a quantitative way so that they might be able to process it a little better, and you can be presenting with, hey, the team doesn't feel like there's enough connection or enough team building or enough community, and they don't feel part of something. And that is important for our shared success.
Yeah, I guess the issue, though, is that they don't necessarily think that. The fact that people are complaining about it is just a nuisance versus it actually affecting the work output. But getting that quantitative connection between how people are feeling and how they're producing is rather tricky.
Yeah, sometimes it can help to bring forward some brain science about how, if you're trying to get people to do things and you're trying to get them to change behavior, if they don't feel safe, it's not going to be easy. Maybe bringing some, actual science forward could be helpful.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I wouldn't have the conversation with the expectation that anything would change. I would have the conversation because it was important to me, and because I feel like somebody owes it to that leader who has the blind spot to tell them. They're probably not going to be able to hear it, but you owe it to yourself to be the one that said it, because you're the one that's covering those gaps. And they may not appreciate it, but it's the right thing to do. Being the person that is willing to tell people the hard thing, it's important. It matters. So
that's beautiful. All right. Well, that's a wrap.
All right, we did it.
Yeah, thanks so much,
back.
everyone, for joining us in season 1 and now joining us in season 2. Let us know what things you want to hear from us about, like which of these threads is the most interesting to you, and do send those Leadership Corner questions too.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Let's invent the future together. I believe in us.
Let's make every day count.